From the Edwin Cardinal O'Brien Pastoral Center in Washington, D.C., home base for the Archdiocese for the Military Services USA. This is Catholic Military Life, a podcast of the Archdiocese, and I'm your interlocutor, Taylor Henry. And for this episode, we are talking about the Catholic Military Conference coming up in Chantilly, Virginia, November 9th through 11th. And I'm so pleased to have as my guests the boss, our Vicar General, the Reverend Monsignor Anthony Frontiero, along with General Counsel Elizabeth Tomlin. Monsignor Frontiero, Elizabeth, welcome to Catholic Military Life.
Thank you, Tal. It's good to be with you.
And so, Monsignor, let's start with you. What is the Catholic Military Conference, and how did the idea for this event come about?
Well, I believe that, the Archbishop has had in mind to sponsor such an event for some time now. Now it's becoming a reality. It's part of his dream, first of all, to serve those who serve in our military experience, to bring people of faith into a greater understanding, not only of their role as Catholics and Christians, but also in service to our country. The love of God and country inspires so many of our people in military life, and this Archdiocese endeavors to assist them on their mission, as it were. And, military life is often referring to spiritual readiness. And that's not a footnote to their service to our country and to their readiness to serve and to sacrifice. So, I believe the Archbishop, in collaboration with many of his advisors, has come up with this sense that we need to do something for our Catholic laymen and women in service to our country. Now, every other year, biannually, we have a convocation for our chaplain corps. It's mandatory for their continued endorsement. And it's always about bringing the priests together to meet with the Archbishop and to pray and share together and to discuss important issues in an ongoing formative way to help enhance their ministry and their service. But, the laity have a strong role in this Archdiocese, and I believe the Archbishop wants to bring them up and help them to also be equipped, particularly in regards to their faith. So this conference that we're organizing is on the theme to serve and to live justly. So we're going to look at some very important, timely topics with some great world-class speakers to assist our laymen and women who participate to understand more the teachings of the Church, to come together and pray, to be with their Archbishop. This is a global Archdiocese. And as a global Archdiocese, very unique in this regard. The Archbishop and his auxiliary bishops are traveling constantly. They're always trying to be with their people. But the global nature of this jurisdiction, it makes it difficult for both the priests and the people to experience the presence of their shepherd. So this is one opportunity among many, and I believe the Archbishop is very keen on this initiative, and we're very excited about it.
Elizabeth Tomlin, you as the General Counsel are taking on a lead role in organizing this conference, and I understand that some of it is going to focus on just war theory.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. So one of the questions that we get asked a lot of times in the military is the hypothetical of, if this certain type of military event happens, this sort of engagement, this sort of combat, this sort of bombing, what does then the Catholic faith say about my response as a service member in serving in warfare? And just war theory has a lot to say about that. And it starts with the question of who am I, right? You can't just say, what is just war theory? Because that's in a vacuum. You have to step back and say, who am I? I am a baptized Catholic. What does that mean to me as a service member? And within that, we can look at the life of virtue, building a life of virtue, making good choices within our military service. And just war theory plays into that. The nature of the military is that service members are likely to engage in warfare. They're likely to engage in events that will challenge their spirituality, that will challenge their their morality, their decisions of life and death of another person, life and death for their brother or sister in arms. And just war theory helps provide a scaffolding or a framework in which to make good decisions, in which to make virtuous choices. So we have invited one of the top theologians to keynote this conference. So we'll spend a half a day talking about just war theory and the moral and spiritual dimensions of military service. So Dr. Joe Capizzi, who is the McGrath Cavadini Chair of the McGrath Institute for Church Life at Notre Dame, will provide a plenary session on just war theory. And then following that, all the participants, and we're hoping for 300 participants, will have an opportunity for a coffee break to chat with one another, to submit their questions to the AMS, and then a panel of world-renowned experts to include Dr. Capizzi and Archbishop Broglio will engage in a dialogue with individuals about the questions that they have related to military service and the spiritual and moral dimensions of the combat of the profession of arms.
Interesting. Monsignor Frontiero, this is a 3-day conference. Tell me a little bit of what is going to go on at the conference.
Well, in addition to the keynotes that Elizabeth just mentioned, there'll be opportunities for prayer, mass every day, of course, with the Archbishop, breakout sessions on a lot of relevant topics to military life, and even including married life in military service, how military service affects marriages and family life, really important things that I think many of our people would love to just explore and look at. And fellowship. There'll be times for fine meals together and just good networking. You know, I mean, we're a family. The Diocesan Church of the AMS is a family, and we believe together, and we serve together, and we enjoy being together. So I think these are moments when the church in military service, under the auspices of the Archdiocese for the military service, can come together and sort of, you know, I like what Elizabeth said there, because, you know, who am I? I mean, the project for all of us, no matter what our station in life as Christians, is to engage in the constant reflection of who am I and to whom do I belong? You know, military service and faith are not mutually exclusive. And I think in times when there's conflict and the prospect of war and engagement, you know, it's really good for us to remember that, you know, we can be faithful Christians and serve our country. And how we do that, how we think about that, is really rooted in those two questions. Who am I and to whom do I belong, you know?
And let me pose this question to either one of you who wants to answer it. But there have been several incidences over the past year involving U.S. military where some folks have raised questions about, was this a just military action? Right. Immediately comes to mind the air attacks on the suspected drug smugglers in the Caribbean and the Pacific, the raid in Venezuela, and the war in Iran. Is all this tied into those incidents, either tightly or loosely, or is this related to all that?
Yes and no, I would say. So yes, in that as a service member, we have to be able to, service members have to be able to know that when they raise their right hand to serve and to obey the lawful orders of those appointed above them, that's a decision to serve their nation, to serve in the military. A lot of the decisions that are being made right now we're in a highly political environment, right? This is not a political conference. This is a conference for moral, spiritual reflection. It's a conference for encountering God. It's a conference for encountering community, and it's a conference for learning and experiencing and reflecting on what the church has to say about military service and about warfare. So the conflicts that we're facing today, Iran deposing the president of Venezuela, the drug interdictions, even conventional warfare, the war in Ukraine, those sorts of conflicts will definitely inform the dialogue, and they must, because we don't exist in a vacuum. But the purpose of the conference is not to look at a specific issue or a specific interaction and come to a conclusion. The goal of the conference is to facilitate service members in reflecting upon their personal military service, reflecting upon the values that inform that: faith, hope, charity, prudence, justice, temperance, fortitude, those virtues, and then employing them.
I see. Monsignor, who's invited to this conference?
Well, we'd like to really target active duty service members, but also those connected to military service. Of course, military spouses, families, and then veterans are certainly invited, and all those attached to military service in any way. We'd like to cast the net widely and invite all those who have a stake in service to our country and in military service to feel welcome.
How about the general public? Are they invited?
I believe so, yes. Yeah. I think, our target, of course, would be active duty and those, fully engaged. But I think those in public service in some regard would be welcome to join us as well.
So, Elizabeth Tomlin, tell me, how does one register for this conference? And is there a fee?
Sure, yes. So, to register, you would go to catholicmilitaryconference.org to register. And we have early bird registration going on right now for the first 75 people. There is a discounted rate for military for the early bird that's $350, and then it's $400 for general admission. And we also have a VIP experience, which will include kind of a more private meal with the Archbishop, receptions, different seating, some more swag bag perks. So just a really elevated experience. And that VIP ticket is $500. And I also would encourage anyone to bring their families. We've created a meal ticket so that if families want to bring their child, we're providing meals with your registration. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, the days of the conference. And there's a $150 meal ticket that's available for children. And that way, we're on site at the Westfields Marriott in Chantilly, Virginia. It's a beautiful facility. It has a great pool for the kids, lots of outdoor spaces, running trails. So to come as a family, you can really kind of be on retreat, but just in a community of military affiliated Catholics who are interested in living life together.
How long is the early bird rate good for?
We are open for the first 75 registrants, and that means we have about 25 more early bird tickets.
I see. And tell me more about the organization of this. You had to have been involved in already a lot of planning and lining up speakers, and tell me more about that.
Well, we've collaborated with many people, including other organizations. For example, the St. Sebastian Institute, Gladius Christi, which is a Catholic security company. We've collaborated with Fiat, which is a Catholic event planner, to assist us in this effort. I would say Elizabeth she's been the driver since we initially got this grouping together. But it certainly is a team effort. And so far it's off to a good start.
And now there's an MC who's going to MC this event.
Yes. So Katie McGrady is a good friend of the Archdiocese, and you'll know her from Sirius XM, the Catholic channel. Katie hosts the Katie McGrady Show, and she is going to MC the event from start to finish. So she's incredibly engaging. If you've not met her, she facilitated the National Catholic Youth Conference's conversation with Pope Francis. She's spoken at Seek and all of the Steubenville youth conferences. You can find her every day on the radio. And she has an incredible gift for listening to what people have to say and facilitating a conversation from multiple viewpoints within that. So she's dynamic, she's friendly, she's wonderful. So I think she's going to be the perfect MC.
And Monsignor Frontiero, let's get back to, if you will, the just war. We call it a theory, but as you mentioned, it's who am I? It's who am I? Otherwise, a theory is just a theory. Yeah. But Why should someone serving in the military who's obliged to obey orders worry about Augustine and Thomas Aquinas' writings on just war?
Well, because every person created in the image and likeness of God and redeemed in the precious blood of our blessed Lord Jesus has an obligation to follow their conscience. We're moral agents, every one of us, and we're not robots. So even though we do, we agree to a military service, we sign on the dotted line, but that doesn't take away our obligation to glorify God in the way we serve. So these questions, and the just war theory, or just war tradition, as I like to call it, is really important because it helps people of goodwill, not just Catholics, but people of goodwill, as most, I would say, Catholic social teaching has the effect to really help shape minds and hearts, right? And we have this capacity to know and to love, I think, as people created by God in his image and likeness. Two great powers that people have. And we never surrender those gifts of God for anything. So we need to be discerning agents because we're moral agents. We carry out deeds. We think things. We say things. We relate in certain ways. So the just war tradition, particularly in the military conflict or context, when there is conflict, helps us discern how to act, even how to think, so that we can absolutely glorify God by the way we live.
Got it. Now, Elizabeth Tomlin, you are in the military. Your husband is in the U.S. Army, and you have personal experience of being in the military. Tell me a little bit more about that. What is it like being a Catholic in the United States military? What are the values you have to balance?
Sure. So I've never personally served in the military, but I grew up in a military family. My dad was a Marine for 27 years. And I married my husband, who commissioned in 2001, so right before 9/11. And we've been living this military life for a long time now. And as a Catholic in the military, I think in any walk of life, whatever your vocation, and this is where the conference starts with that question of who am I? You are a baptized Catholic, whether you're in the military or without. That calls you to a life of virtue, right? You were baptized into Christ. You're a member of his universal church, and you're baptized into his identity. And within that, we're called to live out a vocation to love and serve one another and to pursue virtue. So what do you need to be equipped with in military life? Faith, hope, charity, prudence, justice, temperance, fortitude. How do you build those? You build those in community. Holiness does not get built up in a vacuum. I mean, unless you're like a particularly graced hermit, which I am not. But military virtue gets built within community, and those virtues are universal. So to cultivate those in military life, and in any walk of life, I would say surround yourself with holy, virtuous people, with people who are striving for heaven. That's what we're striving for. I think that it's really important in military life to plug in with the military chapel. The military chapels, as anybody who's experienced a military chapel will know, are usually financially under-resourced, but they have huge hearts. And when you add just a little bit of service into that community, the multiplicative effect, if I can use a mathy word, but the multiplicative effect has such a great impact in the community that if you have one more catechist helping, one more member of the choir, one more person bringing donuts in after Mass, you've built a community. And that's what people are searching for today. They're searching for a way to belong. And when you belong to a virtuous community, that's how you improve in military life. And I think we have to remember that in military life, military service builds leadership, whether you're a private, you're promoted from private to private first class. Great. Your job then is to mentor the private. If you're a sergeant, you're a non-commissioned officer, a sergeant first class, master sergeant, gunnery sergeant. Your job as an NCO is to be a good leader to soldiers, Marines, sailors, guardians. As a junior officer, still leadership. And then as a senior officer, then your leadership expanse becomes even greater. So to be equipped with the just war tradition, moral theology, or really just living a life of virtue, to understand as a Catholic who you are as a baptized Catholic, what your baptismal charism is, how you're called to serve, how you're personally living that out. When you start asking those questions as a junior enlisted soldier, as an ROTC cadet, as an academy cadet, you build upon that throughout your life so that when you are a senior leader, these things are just ingrained in you, right? It's who you are. So we have to start asking these questions as soon as people come into the military, ideally even before that.
Monsignor Frontiero, what should attendees what do you hope attendees will come away with?
Well, my hope is that, military life is very much rooted in things like discipline. There's a chain of command, right? As Elizabeth was talking about, virtue is instilled in our military personnel through those vehicles of discipline, chain of command, specialized fields, and all that. So I'm hoping that this conference will be able to enhance the values of our men and women in uniform and their families, help them to really appreciate even more the sacrifices they make, because the sacrifices that all of us make, and everyone has got to engage in some level of sacrifice in their life. Jesus put it this way, take up your cross every day and follow me. Well, for all of us, no one is exempted from that cross. It's spelled out differently for everybody, but in military life, it's a very particular path. And so my hope is that the attendees will have a renewed appreciation for the path that they have chosen to take in service to God and country, and maybe even to discover for the first time the beauty of the faith in relation to their service.
Very interesting. Elizabeth Tomlin, you have been out to the Westfields Marriott where this conference is going to be held. Tell us more about the hotel and what kind of food folks can experience.
Hey, I'm always here for good food.
Right.
So the Westfields Marriott it's a beautiful facility out in Chantilly, Virginia. And it is a hotel that we'll have a lovely conference room set up, and we are working with a production company to have a beautiful space for Mass and adoration. I have already coordinated with the hotel to make sure that the smoke detectors are off when we have incense and adoration. We have beautiful music planned, so the ambiance of the hotel will be beautiful. You're not going to be in a cold conference room. You're going to be in a beautiful space. Each morning of the conference, you'll have a hot breakfast ready for you. We will have lunch. We have kind of a family style dinner planned for one night. And then for our banquet dinner, which coincides with the Marine Corps birthday. So there might be some appropriate Marine Corps birthday festivities on that day. We'll have a more elevated dinner. So we're inviting, women to wear cocktail dress, men cocktail attire, or service dress on that night. So it'll be a lot of fun. And I had the privilege, somebody had to suffer through it, to go out and do a tasting at the hotel yesterday. And I can promise you that the food is delicious.
Oh, okay. And the banquet is going to be on the night of November 11th.
November 10th.
November 10th.
November
okay.
10th.
And that's the birthday of the United States
It's the Marine
Corps.
Corps' birthday. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, once again, how does someone register for this?
Yes. So you will register by going to CatholicMilitaryConference.org, and the registration page is there. People can register as a group. So your chapel group or your parish can register, and you can register as an individual. And we have active duty tickets and military retiree veteran tickets and a VIP ticket available.
And you mentioned there are going to be breakout sessions, right? There'll be breakout sessions.
Yeah.
What are some of the topics that will be covered in those?
So we have two of our apostolates within the AMS will be present. Team St. Paul, which is about young adult accompaniment at military installations, and Reach More, which is about your personal apostleship within your spiritual life. How are you particularly called to serve the church? And that's what Reach More helps people discern. We also, and I will give a little spoiler alert on this one, have asked Mary and Jerry Lenneberg to give a talk on marriage. So Jerry served in the Navy for 11 years. They had 2 children, one severely special needs, and they navigated that life together. And Mary is set to release a new book that's all about the works of the Holy Spirit in her life. And so Mary and Jerry will give a great talk on marriage. And we have lots of other surprises. So if you follow Catholic Military Conference on Instagram, then you'll be the first to know as we continue to release our speakers.
Monsignor Frontiero, this is billed as the inaugural Catholic Military Conference. Is this going to become an annual thing?
Well, this remains to be seen. I know in the Archbishop's vision, he'd like to have this as a perpetual fixture as part of the Archdiocesan programmatics to help continue formation for our people. So we'll have to see. It will certainly, I would hope, be biennial, if not annual.
I see. Okay, well, in the last 2 or 3 minutes we have, any closing thoughts? What would you like to leave our listener with?
I would just like to encourage everyone who hears this podcast to register for this conference. I think it's going to sell out quickly. Mm-hmm. I think it's a long anticipated event in our military archdiocese. So I encourage everyone to check it out.
And Elizabeth, you said that the goal is 300. Mm-hmm. Are you able to handle more than that?
So yes, we are able to handle more. 300 is the goal. And I think that if people come, they're going to leave this conference saying, wow, I feel so connected, so uplifted. I had so much fun. I thought about things I had never thought about before. I encountered the Lord in the sacraments and adoration in a beautiful way. So I think if you don't come, you're going to have serious FOMO, fear of missing out. And so 300 is what we're aiming for. 400 is the absolute max capacity of the ballroom. So
I see. So one more time for that listener's thinking, well, I'd like to go. Where can they go to find out information about this conference, this Catholic Military Conference coming up November 9 through 11 of this year, 2026, in Chantilly, Virginia? Where to find more information, where to register?
Yes, CatholicMilitaryConference.org. And follow it on Instagram, which is CatholicMilitaryConference.org as well, or Catholic Military Conference.
Elizabeth Tomlin, the General Counsel of the Archdiocese for the Military Services, and the Vicar General, Monsignor Anthony Frontiero. Thank you so much for talking to me about the upcoming Catholic Military Conference.
Thank you very much, Taylor.
Thanks, Taylor.